All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome, everybody. It's Monday, August 7th. It's 6 o'clock on the dot. And I would call this meeting of the New Shoreham Town Council to order, excuse me. We have three items. Is Nick on? Or James, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So I had one of those star. It's called Lone Star. Yeah. And
You had one out here?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not a.
Sorry, everybody.
Are you waiting for Nick?
Yes.
He's here.
Yes, I'm here, Millie. Thank you.
Hey, Nick. For the audience, joining us is one of our solicitors, Nick Solitro. Nick, we have three items on our 6 o'clock agenda that look like they may be in closed session. Is that correct?
That's correct. They've been noticed in anticipation of reasonably anticipated litigation. My recommendation is you take a vote and go into executive session.
Okay. For all three. Go ahead, Bill.
Can you give a light on any of these? Obviously, the first one.
Yeah, first one's pretty self-explanatory. The second is regarding a facility at, for lack of a better word, I wanted to use an unloaded word, at Champlin's called Guacamole, where there is some question as to whether it's a mobile food establishment or a food truck. And Elizabeth Connor has responded, and I guess we're going to review that, which may lead to temporary or permanent injunctive relief request. And then the third one is over an ongoing work that's occurring between the town and the sewer district over allocation of costs for, remember the Highview Lane, there was a sewer line that turns out was pitched the wrong way, and it resulted in a fairly substantial amount of work. So we're gonna get briefed on that, which, so that's what the three things are. I'd accept the motion to go into closed session.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. We're in closed session. Thank you, guys. What? Well, it worked for about 5 minutes.
Do you want to potentially change the order? Just go other.
Oh, that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, here. He's going by a choice species too.
We ready? I would reconvene the council meeting. And make a motion to seal the minutes of the closed session. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. And to update, we did take one vote. It was on the item number 2 regarding the Guacamole, the mobile food establishment. The motion was the following. In fact, I think I have to say, I would make a motion to direct the solicitor to write to Champlins disputing their interpretation of the town's MFE licensing ordinance, giving Champlins 14 days to comply and encouraging Champlins to apply for a license in November. Failure to comply within the 14 days would result in the town seeking injunctive relief.
Second.
Any, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. All right. Millie, we're back. I would make a motion to convene the Board of License Commissioners.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. We are now convened as the Board of License Commissioners, and agenda item number 4, which is to discuss and act on an application for an outdoor entertainment license for the Lunch Bucket, 30 Water Street, Plat 7, Lot 19. Is the applicant here? How are you? Will you make sure that that button, the button is on? Great.
Agree.
Terrific. Can you walk us through your applications? You know, say your name, all that kind of stuff.
John Levesque, the owner of Lunch Bucket. Just looking for an entertainment license for one night. The host, maybe Mac Brown, for a little live entertainment outside. Be nothing different than Mohegan's hosting now. On from there 7 to 9, I believe it is.
So. What did I miss here? So you're asking for one night?
Yep.
1 day a week?
Just one night a week. It's not even scheduled yet, really.
That's right. I thought it was.
Oh, yeah.
I was confused. Okay. So what nights?
I'm willing to work around it. I know the bookstore has the events as well lined up. So I hate to overlap on something and to intrude on them.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a
Go ahead.
couple.
Good.
So when I stopped in to the shop, I was told that you only serve breakfast and lunch and that you serve breakfast all day. Would you be planning on serving food?
We'd be serving food. It's pretty much the same lunch menu, just extended out during the day.
Uh-huh.
Right now, I've been closing at 5. Originally, I was just open to 7, but nothing happens past that corner. After 5 o'clock, it's almost like a dead zone. So I'm hoping to hold an event, something like that, to draw people back in. Maybe I'll close down for 2 hours, recoup, clean up, open back up from 7 to 9, 7 to 10. I don't know. Be a trial and error type thing.
Any others?
Well, mine is more of a philosophical kind of higher level. So we're getting more and more outdoor license requests for music. We don't have clear language around how many, what we do. We currently align what the outdoor license allows. And I don't know what the answer is, so I'm just kind of talking out loud, but we could have every ice cream place ask for singers. We could have the bookstore ask for singers. The town needs to figure out how we approach that, how many licenses we want to give out. I'm all for outside entertainment, but it's been raised around noise. Noise is being an issue across the country. We're not the only town with it. So I just caution us on, and I'm not, this is not about you at all. You know, I'm glad it's one night. I was thinking 7 nights of it. But I do think we need to have a plan of approach, because when so if we approve this, the next person comes, when's too much? How do we manage this so we're not playing favorites?
Yeah.
Can I just further that? So, if anybody's here, don't take offense, but this year, given where our business is, the Atlantic on Sundays has a musician on the deck. And it's actually very nice, but exactly to your point, it's a significant amount of sound that goes down through that valley. And I think we need to get a handle on this. So to some degree, whatever we do here, I'd love this fall,
Sure,
this winter, to have a major discussion about it.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, to zoom out even further, one of the things I would really like to do at our first meeting in September is come up with a punch list of these things that we want to tackle, because it's not unique to this one.
And this has nothing to do with Nick's. My comment has nothing to do with Nick's and Sunday. This is
No,
all
no, no.
about
Yeah.
the number of licenses and
Yeah.
the play.
So I have some other questions regarding
Please.
signage, which I know doesn't seem related, but your signage is a little haphazard looking. So I'm just curious what your signage plan is.
Well, I took down everything except that one feather banner that's up, because I mean, without that, you can't really tell what I am. All I have is literally an open flag. And I've had people come in saying, hey, I can't find you, without having any signage at all. So I took
Right.
down every other thing you guys asked me to take down. The new wooden sign for the building came in. Unfortunately, they spelt the word wrong on it. So the guy's coming out this weekend to repaint it. And then I'm waiting for new brackets to come in. That will go up, flag will come down. You will not have any issue with a feather flag, anything flapping in the wind that doesn't say the word open on it.
I hope they did.
But I mean, without that one thing that says food on it, I mean, you
Right.
can't, all you see is red and blue umbrellas. I mean,
Right.
I took down all the
That's-
I took down all the A-frames from the sidewalk, all them other little things that people they asked for. I mean, I took down the banner off the wall.
Right, okay. But I'm glad, so you did apply for.
The sign's
a
approved.
real sign.
Yo, the sign got approved,
Sorry,
yes.
that-
They signed
Great.
approved. They got the information on it,
That's a
the
terrible
mock up.
mistake to have. Okay, that was a question I had about my visit too.
Just one more, please.
Yes,
In here, you talk about type of entertainment, live music, stand-up comedy / karaoke, game nights for family. Is this gonna be?
Well, originally someone approached me about hosting like a karaoke night, things like that. So that, well, I just put that on there. So if that did come up, then I'm not trying to hide anything, but that's not something I'm gonna do this year. The other one thing I was gonna do is maybe put the projector out and put a family movie night out. I don't know if that falls under live entertainment as well for that, but that is the only other thing I was hoping to do. As far as like stand-up comedy, all that stuff, that was just, people would kind of say, hey, I would like to host this there. So I figured I'd throw it down there, but it's not I don't have any plans for that.
So my real question was, is this amplified or not amplified?
For the sound.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm sure he carries a speaker with him and that plugs in, so I'm assuming amplified a little bit, yes, somewhat. It probably won't be any louder than the speakers I have on my patio now playing music.
we've heard about that. No, that was a joke. Sorry, John.
One of the things that we have done in the past was limit the number of performers or limit the amount of amplification. And I mean, there are all kinds of parameters we can put on this. It sounds like you really don't have a game plan other than whatever happens.
Pretty much. Like I said, it'll be one performer. Like I said, I mean, it's no different. You walking by the Mohegan, he's set up right near the window. Window is wide open. You can hear him across the street going through town. So I mean, I'm sure it'll be a lot quieter than that.
Are there any comments about
Well,
this?
so can I just clarify?
Yeah.
So right now, for the remainder of the season, the goal is to have one singer a given night
Yeah.
that you will work with your other tenants in your building, make sure the spaces being provided or used by others with existing events that have happened. you'll work around that and it will never coincide. But you're talking about one singer.
Correct.
Same
Who
singer
is-
for the
who is
remainder.
who is actually fully booked already for the season now, so it's, I mean, I didn't realize it took 3 weeks plus another week to get the license, that they moved a little faster, to be honest with you. So he actually kind of did book it, so I mean, it may not even have performance at all. But if I could have that card in my back pocket, be able to pull it out, I mean, I'd love to be able to pull it out in August sometime.
Have you met with the bookstore and Jesse Edwards and talked about this and?
Not until just a little while ago.
Did you say not until a little while?
Correct. I didn't think they're gonna have an issue with me doing it, especially host. I mean, I always seen them close at 5. They had a paint night that they host. I seen one night a week for a couple of hours. I mean, I wouldn't do live entertainment over their paint night while everybody's trying to paint and enjoy scenery.
Okay, you're answering the question exactly.
said no.
Exactly the way I would, which, let me reframe. Did you talk to them, yes or no?
No, I didn't think I needed their permission to talk to them to host something. at my
No,
place.
it's just a good neighbor policy, that's all.
So
The one thing, as we had this meeting in September, whatever we're gonna do it in the fall, is if I think about the new restaurant opening up across the street, we've got a fairly large establishment at the end of the street. I just think, I think if we do anything, it's gotta be for sort of a short time, not with the assumption that I can just renew and until we figure out. what's
Sure,
going on.
sure,
So
sure.
I just don't want this
Yeah,
to set
no,
up a precedent.
And
And I don't mean,
No.
for everybody that,
yeah,
it's just.
I thought this was only a 1-year thing every year to come back and, so that's,
It is, but there's a little bit of a precedent setting.
Susan,
Yes. Should I?
John, yes, please.
I'm Susan Bush, and I'm representing Island Bound Bookstore and Jesse Edwards Gallery. In principle, we do not have any issue with something happening. I'm speaking as a business owner, outside of the hours that we might have events. Personally, I think there's way too much going on in town. And I think that if you change the ordinance to acoustic music only, it would change the whole dynamic of a lot of it. But with respect to the lunch bucket, we don't want it going on during business hours or when we have special events. And since we have been there for a number of years and have established events, then we think we have some kind of claim to consideration for that.
I really appreciate your letter, by the way. I thought it was
So
terrific.
that's
So do you have established dates for all your events for the
We
remaining
have-
year?
We have established dates for all of our art classes.
Okay.
The author events.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have established dates for all of our art classes. We have dates for our author events. Most of the time, those are done at least 6 to 8 weeks in advance. It's not like
Mhm.
we do it in 24 hours. So pretty much we know what our summer schedule is going to be by the end of May.
Okay, so for the remainder of this,
For the
You're
remainder
all-
of this,
you're
the remainder of this season, all we have will be art classes.
And so what about Jesse?
Jessie is not doing anything outside, but she does have artist receptions in
Yes.
her gallery, and it would be detrimental to her to have music blasting while,
Right.
when she's doing this.
Does she have dates for those? And does she feel the same way you do, which is, and if
Yes, she
and if I'm
does.
wrong about
Yes,
that?
yes. She and I agree that if it does not conflict with our after-hour events, we do not have a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. David,
David Lewis, Quinimus Road. My comment is not directly related to the application in front of you, but it's directed to Neil's comment with regard to, and yours follow-up with regard to future policy. So I'm happy to wait until the end of, you take your vote and then make my comment before you adjourn the licenses commissioners meeting. Your choice. It's not long, it's just 2 sentences.
Go.
Okay. I wonder if it's appropriate for the Board of Licensing Commissioners, and this idea only popped in my head in response to Neil's comment, to, before tonight's commissioners meeting ends, to vote a moratorium on future outdoor entertainment licenses for a period of time until you get a fixed, firm policy in place. That there's precedent for this decades ago for various different occasions when the planning board needed time to catch up with events, and probably the zoning board too, I'm less aware of, but that's my comment. Please take that under advisement.
So you've hit on what I think has made me uncomfortable about this in a way. You know, it's a slight variation, and that is it's very late in the season and we have abutters who have written a pretty compelling note about it. You know, it's not, and I don't know why that, but that concerned me when we got this application.
I guess the one thing I didn't say was, if you don't put a moratorium on, it begs others to come in to get in under the threshold, under, you know, before the end of this, before the real end of the season.
So I think we have a problem voting on a moratorium that isn't on our agenda.
You can do as you need to.
Yes,
Thank you.
Once you've said it.
So we just recently approved the pizza shop for an outdoor entertainment license. And so I've given this a lot
Yeah.
of thought, right? Because these licenses are normally done in the late fall and, right, in late fall. And so to see more than one come up late in the season, but I felt differently about the two of them. And now the difference, I just want to say the difference between this and the pizza shop in my mind is that, first, no abutters wrote us or contacted us at all about the other request. And also, I think we all agreed that there were so many outdoor entertainment licenses in that vicinity.
Yes.
Those are two differences from this one. We have abutters who, not just the bookstore and the art gallery, but also the Harbor Church that wrote specifically requesting that there be no, you know, if we were to approve it, that we not have the ability for music during their outdoor service on Sundays. But I guess the other difference is we don't really have very many licenses in that area. So just want to kind of state the obvious.
So what's your feeling about it?
I'm going to be honest. I mean, I went in and they serve breakfast and lunch, but want to have entertainment in the evening. It just seems chaotic.
I think I'd only be comfortable, given everything we've just talked about, with acoustic or non-amplified.
So there's two questions here, right? One is whether you want to press on with the granting of a license. The second would be, if the answer to that is yes, what would the conditions be? And I wasn't clear with Molly. I was really asking, like, what's your general feeling? Mine is not positive on this. Because it's late and because we have abutters, 3 different abutters who have said we have concerns.
Well, and if I can further that, then seemingly there's no setup plan. It's not like there's, somebody that's coming in.
Right. Neil or Martha, what's your feeling? What are your feelings?
Well, I'd be fine with it because we do.
I could get there on it because we only have 4 weeks left of the season.
Right.
And I feel like, to your point, we did give just a license late in the season to someone else. So it seems fair to me. I would like a more definitive plan than karaoke, and it sounds like you've got the gentleman to sing. So if there's a commitment to work with the other tenants in the building, I'd be inclined to approve it, and then we can revisit as we have a new ordinance.
That was basically what I was gonna say. I don't have a problem with it. I do have a big problem with picking one and denying it when we've, granted so many others. And I think that the other folks who didn't object to the pizza places, I don't think any one of them really had very good standing to object since they all had outdoor music. So I think that's, well, anyhow. I think that end of town is really kind of dead at night. I would, just for the record, note that I am on leadership at Harbor Church, but this was not something I went before leadership, and because I would have reminded the pastor that the time he's talking about is not the time that's allowed under any outdoor entertainment licenses. We can, I don't know why we can't put a limit on the number of people. We've done that before, and on the hours. And it might be nice to have something there. It might work. I mean, it might not. You're not going to know. I don't think we're going to have crazy bands.
Susan, would the abutters be okay if we approve something that was on dates agreed to by Island Bound and Jesse Edwards with John?
Yes.
Okay, so instead of making this a living motion, let me tell you what I've heard today. One is what I just said to Susan, which is, John, it would be on dates agreed to with Island Bound and Jesse Edwards Gallery. That it would be acoustic music only. I got to be honest with you, having heard some karaoke singers, I am sorry, including myself, by the way. But I think to Sven's point, a plan and not a menu would be really helpful. So I think what I would suggest is that it be acoustic music, and that it run 4 hours. After 6?
Well, for us, after 6, as long as we don't have an event.
Right, but it'd be on dates agreed, but
Yeah.
so 6 to 9. Is that
one day a week?
Nine's outside limit.
one day a week? Yeah.
Can we include, because he talked about movies, could we include movies, or you don't want to include movies? That's an alarming face.
I'm not in favor of movies.
Okay, I'm just
I
asking.
think we
you
should
to
say
describe.
acoustic music,
Yeah.
see how it goes
Okay,
I mean,
Some people are already doing movies.
on the
I'm not
beach.
on the side of a building in the middle of town.
They've done it.
So I would make a motion to approve an outdoor entertainment license for the Lunch Bucket, 30 Water Street, Plat 7, Lot 19, with the following conditions. One, that this be limited to once a week on dates agreed to by Island Bound, Jesse Edwards, and the Lunch Bucket. That it be acoustic music only. What have I missed anything, guys?
Hours.
Oh, hours, that it be limited to the hours of 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Have I missed anything? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
And that it's at least, that whole thing is submitted to Millie
And that plan be submitted to Millie, so that we know.
and can document it.
The town clerk, not Earl. Yes.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. All right.
12 minutes before you can get the next week going.
Item 5, discuss an act on an application for an F1 liquor license for the Block Island Historical Society on August 26, 2023, from 6 PM to 8 PM at the Historical Society, 18 Old Town Road, Plat 6, Lot 1. Are you recusing? This is for the Block Island Historical Society sort of annual gala. I believe we have granted this in the past. Are there any questions about it?
Is anybody here from?
Is anybody here from the historic? Come up. Sorry, I should have called you first.
Hi, I'm Hannah Blackwood. I'm the Administrative Director of the Historical Society.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
So we did that. You did this last year, right?
Yes,
This is the
we
one with the
did this.
round tent on the side.
Yes, we did this last year. Last year we had Kimberly's cater it, so we were able to use their license. So we didn't have to apply to one. This
Gotcha.
year, Old Island Pub has generously decided to gift us beer and wine as a donation. So we need to get our own license.
Great.
An F1 license requires that the alcohol is purchased for the retail. Purchase retail. From that's
Is there a way to go about it where it's donated?
Madam Clerk.
You made a critical error.
I can't speak to.
But maybe they can donate.
I was about to say, yeah, we can.
Retail alcohol.
Right, because we just approved some of these and
Right.
just read
Yeah,
those regs, and
Yeah.
that is a requirement of that license that you purchase the alcohol at retail.
All right, we can work that out. Either way. We'll want wine and beer at this event.
Is there another license that could fall that really, right? I'm sure looking at Millie like.
my
Not that I'm aware.
my sense is that Hannah has recognized the error of her ways and will remedy this. Is that correct, Hannah?
That is true.
Very well. I have a motion to approve
So moved.
an F1 license for the Historical Society on August 26, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. You're all set, Hannah.
Thank you.
All right.
Let Martha stay outside. She's enjoying it.
Sven, can you make a motion to adjourn the Board
I
of
make a
Liquor?
motion to adjourn the Board
License
of License
Commissioners.
Commissioners.
Is there a second? Second.
Seconded by
All
Neil.
those in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We're adjourned and we're now into the regular business of the town council. We begin with public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? Judy, come aboard.
This is about the, order about the emergency vehicles on the.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, in the town of New Shoreham, no motor
Judy,
vehicle.
Can you just- yeah.
Point it at,
Yeah.
it's very directional. It's crazy.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like that?
perfect.
Good.
Yep.
Simply stated, in the town of New Shoreham, no motor vehicle carrying passengers can accept compensation from these passengers, as in tips, for example. According to the Rhode Island DMV, the driver would need a Rhode Island chauffeur's license and be 21 years of age. The same license is needed on Block Island according to our ordinance 8-62. Therefore, in order to run a courtesy vehicle, no compensation is allowed whatsoever. All we are asking is that the town enforce this existing ordinance and inform the businesses with courtesy vehicles they cannot accept tips. This should be posted in the courtesy vehicle for passengers to see. That's it.
Thank you. Any other comment tonight? Monica?
I have, you can hear me, I'm sure, I don't need to speak into it.
Amy, can you just bring, she's gonna bring the mic to you a little bit.
Monica, the microphone is for the listeners at home as well.
Not for us.
All right.
There you go. Thank you,
Perfect,
Amy.
thank you.
Okay, my problem is with the Mahogany Shoals band. And it's much more intense than accepting tips. They operated a van without a current inspection for months. Months! And the police did nothing. Somehow, when our complaint became to the town manager, they went and got an inspection at Leo's without a front license plate. Legally, you cannot get a valid inspection without 2 license plates on the car. The car, to this day, does not have a front license plate. Now, 1, it's an illegal inspection. 2, the car is running illegally because it doesn't have a front plate. 3, the cops did nothing. Why? Who told the cops they didn't have to enforce it? I think that is a very crucial question that you better start asking yourself. Who told the cops that they didn't have to make any complaint, that they could run without a front license plate? Because that inspection is illegal without 2 license plates in the state of Rhode Island. And it still doesn't have a license plate in the front. Still. And the cops still have done nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's my comment.
Thank you, Monica. Come on up.
Jim Rondinoni, been a license holder of a taxi for about 12 years. And again, I'm not against courtesy vehicles, by the way, per se. But I just wanted to bring up this thought, this question. On the mainland, if I were to need to use a courtesy vehicle, say I'm at the airport, I'd probably have to wait at a certain time because they have things scheduled. And then I'd wait, I'd get picked up and I'd be brought back to that hotel or whatever. So here's my point. My point is, I think there's a difference between lodging at a hotel or a bed and breakfast or whatever, and people being brought there or brought back to the ferry or the airport, wherever they're leaving, than just allowing a shuttle to simply pick up people wherever, like a taxi. And I think that's what's happening. The shuttles they're operating like a taxi where they're picking up anybody who wants to use their facility. But I think the way shuttles normally work is you get picked up to use the facility, in other words, as lodging. That's where you're staying, but not necessarily to go there to get whatever.
Mhm.
So that's my point. Maybe it's something we have to discuss as to the use of these vehicles. And in the Champlin website, I'll just read this quickly. It says, our complimentary shuttle service available to all Block Island visitors transports you directly from downtown Block Island to our world famous mudslides. But that's my whole point. They're operating kind of like a taxi. They're picking people up wherever they want and, and bringing them there. And I understand it's for their benefit, but it just seems like that's what we do. That's our job. Their job should be to pick up people for lodging and bring them back and forth to wherever. Just something to think about. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Jim.
May I add something?
Of course.
I am not the oldest cab driver, then Matt really has that, but one of the oldest cab drivers, but I have held that license since 1979. I have never seen what's going on now, ever. I mean, I remember the Wild and Woolly days, and it was never that bad as it is now. It's gotten so that anybody picks up anybody, goes anywhere. I mean, Mahogany Shoals, I know for a fact, takes people to the bluffs, takes people to the lighthouses, both north and southeast. Is that what it's supposed to be doing? Is that what a shuttle service does? Not that I know of.
Mhm. I'm sorry, I couldn't see you.
Good evening, John Cullen. I
Hey,
also am a
John.
taxi license holder, and I'm kind of the new guy in the taxi world, but I have kind of, what's that?
1979.
Yeah. I've watched this unfold this year. And I know there's been a shuttle at Paynes for a number of years, and now there's a Champlin shuttle. And I can only speak for myself. And I think it seems reasonable for a resort property to have a shuttle to bring their passengers back and forth. But my fear is the growing animosity between, maybe Champlin's, there is no animosity, but I know that there's the growing animosity could potentially harm both the taxis and Champlin's, because I personally have gone to Champlin's. I answered my phone, can you come and pick us up? And I get there and the people aren't there, and they've gotten into the Champlin free shuttle and off they went, which if they're a guest there, then more power to them. But when I drive over there and spend my time and my fuel and drive in the van that I had to buy, that is kind of taking money out of my pocket. So I think we need clearly defined roles for the taxis and for these courtesy shuttles, not just Champlin's, but all of them, because there may be a few more next year. And if this problem could potentially grow, and I don't want any animosity. I get a lot of fares from Champlin's, and it's a good place for the taxis to go. But sometimes when I get a call, I now say, gee, is it worth driving all the way over there when the people may not be there? And I have to say that thought has crossed my mind more than once. And we need to, I think, just come up with a clearly defined role of what are the taxis doing and what are these courtesy shuttles doing, whether it's Paynes or Champlin's or any other number that may show up in the future. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but driving around town and picking people up and dropping them off wherever they want to get picked up and dropped off. I think I'm echoing what Rondo said. That seems to be the role of the taxi. Point to point, like if there's a specific drop off, then
Right.
I don't know where the enforcement is on that either. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of bad energy that's developing over this, and I think that we all need to work together to provide the best service to our visitors that we can, and work together to find a solution. And that's it.
That was really helpful, John. Thank you. Yes. We're not supposed to.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, this is public comment, which means there's not really a discussion. It's comments and you listen. Is there any more? I know, Martha's like, yes.
I think at the very least.
Oh, you gotta come up.
Got to come up, Hillary.
I know, you love microphones.
Hi.
Hi,
Hillary
Hillary.
Ryan Stewart, nothing involved with taxis. But I think at the very least, anybody who is shuttling someone should be required to have a chauffeur's license.
Mhm.
At the
Mhm.
very least,
Mhm.
you're shuttling people around, whether or not you're taking tips or not, or whatever commerce is happening. Chauffeur's license.
I haven't heard
Should
that
be
come up,
required.
but someone wrote us
You miss
about
me,
it.
right?
You better believe I do. And I actually mean it. Brian, do you want to come?
Thank you. Brian LaPlante on behalf of Champlin's. And initially, I just want to say that my client has a great deal of respect for the taxi drivers and the others who do motor vehicle for hire work. I mean, it's their livelihood. And so it's certainly not Champlin's intention to undermine that. But I just want to be clear about a couple of things for the record so that everybody's on the same page about Champlin's intentions and its actions. So the shuttle that is operated at Champlin's is a free courtesy shuttle. Champlin's doesn't operate a motor vehicle for hire. You know, unlike the taxis and, you know, I don't know to the extent they're a limousine or small bus-like vehicles, the passengers do not initiate or direct or pay for the shuttle. They don't initiate it, meaning they don't call for service. They don't direct it. They don't tell it where to go on the island. And they certainly don't have an expectation of paying for it. They don't pay for it. They're not a public carrier. Champlain's isn't a public carrier intending to compete or competing with the taxis. In fact, as some of the taxi drivers and owners have testified, tens of taxis do good work for hire, providing transportation for Champlain's, visitors and guests. And so we're aware of some instances where some of the guests have, like they do probably at various locations on the island, they jump into another cab if it's more convenient, or whatever they do. The management, after becoming aware that some folks have used the shuttle rather than the taxi that they had called, management now has a policy of telling its guests never to do that and to dissuade them from doing that, and also to respect the taxi driver who has arrived there. So I think it was a great point that the gentleman who just came up said, that the parties need to work together. No question about that. That's critical. And so we want to keep an open dialogue with the taxi drivers to ensure, for example, that they don't come all the way out to Champlain's and fail to get a fare. That's not fair to them. It's also very important to my client that they stick to the purpose of the shuttle, which is not for compensation, not to be directed, and to maintain a consistent point-to-point route. That's all they do, and that's all they're intended to do. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and certainly management is happy to answer any questions. Again, we want to cooperate and collaborate, and not in any way undermine these licensees.
Right. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, talk to the chair. You can direct it to.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second, Judy. Go ahead, Mark.
I'm really curious if it's gonna become an engagement.
Well,
Just one,
it's
just
not
one.
gonna-
So you're not collecting any compensation? There are no tips taken? So you won't be opposed to not having, you won't be opposed to them not taking tips as compensation? So you can put in your vehicle possibly something that says, this is us
Can I
working
make a
together.
suggestion, Judy? Why don't, when we finish public comment, why don't you guys go outside and talk about this? Because we have Meetings Act issues that I am particularly mindful of. And I think, and I mean everybody, if I know we only have one here, but I hear you. Okay.
But at the same point, Judy or whoever, it can be put on an agenda if it needs the open discussion, because I have questions about it as well. I mean, I told you the other night, literally, I was like, what are these doing all of a sudden? So we have questions. So
Because it's public comment and it's really can't be a dialogue by statute, I would love to have this on an agenda in September. And I'm not trying to push it off, after the summer, quote unquote. It's just, there's one more meeting in August, right? And I think this is not a simple discussion. John brought up a number of points. Judy, a lot of points have been brought up. There are two very different shuttles running, I think, if you want to call them shuttles. There will be 4 next year, to somebody's comment, or there could be 4 next year. So I think we need to be much clearer than what the island regulations say right now.
Yeah.
I've talked to Nick at some length about this. Actually, Judy talked to me about this a couple weeks ago. The lawyers have been looking into it. It's not as black and white as everybody would like it to be. Let's make it black and white, and let's work it out publicly, to your point, Neil. And I think we spend some time on this and get this worked out, whether it's a private business, it's town, I don't care what, how do we make sure that it's well-defined what is and what isn't? And then we can start having debates as to, I don't like it. But right now, I think we need those meetings.
And the only other comment I'd make, it'd be so much nicer for you guys to work it out than us trying to figure it out.
But I think we need to have the town regulations really clear, and they're not now.
They're not.
Because we
They're not.
didn't, I don't think anybody suspected.
I don't think they've been updated
No,
in a substantial way.
Since
It's like our zoning
1979.
ordinance, it's like and we do have to pick
Yeah.
these off. And I think that's great, but it would be really wonderful if you guys would talk after
But
after
it's,
public.
right now, it's only two.
Yes,
If we don't have it written down, it
Right.
may be four. It
absolutely.
may be six. It must be in black and white.
I think that's what we just said. Yeah.
I hope you do it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
How do I get it on the agenda?
I'll put it, I'll put it on the agenda in September. No problem.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, we have a consent agenda. We have our minutes from July 19th, a letter from Elizabeth Connor. Sorry.
Which, by the way, if you look at it, it's all redacted. You don't have CIA file or a word in there.
On the third issue of the night. We received notice about an outdoor entertainment license that we just issued. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please? Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. I put number 8, receive update on accessory dwelling unit group. We told the council, Sven and I did several weeks ago, that there was a group working. It's Sven, myself, 2 members of the planning board, Chris Warfel, Alicia Miro, trying to, and Karen Browning, our land use attorney, who PS has been terrific, to try to update our accessory dwelling unit ordinance and sort of streamline it, I think is actually probably a better word. We are making some progress. I'm hopeful that in the next week or two, we'll have a product that the planning board can look at, because I think that's how it would start. That's our hope, that this would come through and from planning. And I'm actually I'm quite optimistic that we will have a product for people to consider. Which leads me to item number 9. Chris Warfel has asked for a continuance of this. This in some ways was the catalyst for the group that's working on ADUs. Millie, should we just continue this to a date certain in September?
September 20th?
September 20th? I would make a motion to continue this item to September 20th, 2023. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Now we need to set a public hearing date for the amendment to the parking ordinances, Chapter 18, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Article 3, Stopping, Standing, and Parking. Thank you, Neil, and thank you, Mary Ann and James or Nick, for the work you've done here. Can you? So we're not going to deal with the substance here. I believe. I believe I got a draft of this, but is it going to go up on Clerkbase? How's that?
It's on Clerkbase. Yeah.
It's
on it.
oh,
I'm
it's
looking at it right
not
now.
on my.
It's on there now.
Oh, that's funny. It's not on mine. Maybe I needed to refresh. What is our date for that?
We can do that on September 5th.
September 5th. Can I have a motion to set the public hearing date for this parking ordinance on September 5th? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Item 11, discuss.
Is it officially Fountain Square? Is that what it's called? I didn't know that.
It's in the town ordinances.
I'm just.
We're gonna put Fountain Square on the September 5th agenda.
It's on the same, it's in the same part of the ordinance as those things like Champlain Road and Legion Way and Manistee Park.
And 100 yards from the Transu House and.
Names of roads, names of town roads. And at the time we did it to add one thing to clarify something back in the 90s. And someone who's no longer with us complained at great length about where these names come from, and we made them all up. And I said, well, listen, the only two names I can remember of the council that originally enacted it was John Rose and Jess Lewis. And the other three were, probably a Willis in there, who knows? I can't remember the other ones. And her sum total remark at being caught on it was, oh, they were drunk that night. Because she didn't know it.
Okay, I just asked about Fountain Square.
Okay, item 11, Chief Lynch, would you like to come up and talk to us about Corey? Is that how this works? I don't know.
I mean, I
I'm
can
sorry.
give,
Is that you?
I can give you a brief.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
Yeah, John can help out here, but we
Great.
can probably
Wonderful.
handle
Thank
this.
you.
But
Sorry about that.
what is being presented to you by the charter, we need to bring all police officers to the council for their approval and appointment. So what Chief Lynch is recommend that we hire Corey Patno. He was a seasonal officer here for a number of years. And with COVID, he left and now he's back and he will be working on night shifts. We have officers who are approaching a retirement age, so it's time to build the capacity of the police department. This will bring it up to 5 uniform officers outside the chief, which brings it to 6. And our goal is hopefully to get 2 officers on a shift at all times. When I first started here, at the beginning of my tenure, we did have 5 police officers that were on the roster.
Can I ask a question, how the post is going for the other candidates?
We just have one more that is, they're looking at his credentials and what he needs to do, and
So
he'll be good.
There were 3 who went.
3 who
Corey-
have been approved.
Corey's one?
Corey's one of them. Then we have 2 other ones. And then the 4th one is, has to take some academic work similar to what
Gotcha.
Chief
Thank
Lynch
you.
did because he's from out of state, and that coursework begins August,
I think it's extraordinary that in this.
most likely September.
As I say, I think it's extraordinary that in this environment, you've attracted candidates like this. And I really give you guys a lot of credit for that. Because I mean, if you look up any news item on this, what you see is that literally every town in America is having a hard time attracting officers, and it's just impressive.
And I would just ask that the appointment be made effective July 24th, 2023.
And where is he going to live, or does he already live on the island?
I think the chief has that all taken care of. Yes, temporary housing.
Just to echo Keith for a second, I remember we met 5-6 weeks ago when there wasn't a whole lot of, knowledge, and I'm thrilled, so thank you.
Yeah, would you make?
I'll make a motion to appoint Corey Patnod effective July
23rd.
24th,
24.
2023 to the new, as a full-time sworn officer in the New Shore Police Department.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Corey is appointed.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, really.
If he could get on the taxi cab, no.
Item 12, discuss and act on appointment of attorney, it's Krista Video, not Corey Krista Video, right? As town council's conflict counsel. Can I just say as we open, I don't know why we'd be acting on this because we already did. Did we not act on this when we appointed Karen?
It was my understanding, but just for clarification for everyone, that we know that we had that discussion and conversation that when we interviewed Karen and Marissa, that they said if ever they were in conflict, it's part of the discussion we had because it's not unusual to have conflicts with land use attorneys. So we specifically discussed this with them. And they said that they would hire Krista Video as the conflict attorney, and the council also interviewed Chris Video because he was also a
Right.
candidate for the land use attorney.
Is there further discussion on this? All right, what's that?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
I'm
just,
sorry,
and,
Nancy.
oh, go ahead. And just for the councils, the reason I asked the question was I wanted to make sure there wasn't conflicts outside of the
Sure.
two
Yeah,
parties, that
absolutely,
it was
yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
So
It's a good question.
Hi.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Nancy Dodge. So I have two questions on it. The first one is the conflict that I know Karen and Jim and Nick have been talking about is that they're all hired by the town and they're all paid for by the town. And Chris Video is now hired by the town and paid for by the town. So, isn't it saying the same basic? I mean, it is kind of a one-off, so it's a little bit different. But it still points out an awkwardness in the town council suing their zoning board with town attorneys involved in it. Okay.
Okay.
And my second question is, when it said town council conflict solicitor, Bill Landry was originally the solicitor when the hearing first took place back in March of last year. Then Karen was hired, and Karen was there at the April meeting. But Nick was there at the April meeting representing the zoning board as they discussed how to reach a decision on the 3 decisions that were pending that evening.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jim Callahan signed the complaint that is now going to Superior Court. But Nick has requested the transcript from Sally Broussard. So my question is, are Nick and Jim acting as co-counsel? Because I don't think Nick can because of his role representing the zoning board when this decision was put together. I don't expect you to answer that tonight, but I think you should
Thank
talk
you.
about it
Great.
and see what, what it comes up. And if somebody would clarify it, I'd appreciate
Sure.
it.
Thank you, Nancy. I really appreciate it.
I just want to reiterate your comment because I didn't understand the act either. I understand why we're talking about it, but I think we've acted, and I think it's all, in my mind, move on. Yeah.
Terrific.
You sure you don't want to put this in for the record?
Put
I
what
just
in
did
for the
put it in
record?
For the record, I think.
Okay.
So I'm saying we've acted already. There is no need for action. Chris Video is representing.
Amy? So item 13, discuss broadband governance structure. You have a document, and I think we have some because I screwed up and didn't email this to Millie. Sorry, Amy. So it wasn't on ClerkBase. For Sven and Martha, this is it's certainly not a new issue for Neil and Molly, but we've been talking really since we began, particularly construction and signed all those contracts, about a day that was coming where we were going to have to talk about sort of the ongoing governance and structure of this very large asset that we've now purchased. And frankly, it's been, for whatever reason, particularly sort of grinding on me because we need to do this well because it's been done so well so far. So Amy and I have been talking quite regularly about this. Initially, I would say sort of in a notional kind of way, you could do this, you could do that, it could look like this, it could look like that. And thought it would be worthwhile to have a conversation with everybody, talk about the 4 potential operational structures that we had come up with, I don't want to go through the word by word. You certainly understand, we've spent $8+ million on a broadband system. It's going to require operation. It's going to require investment. It's going to require, setting aside capital for upgrades that are going to be required. We're going to be called upon, I believe, over time. It would not surprise me if the federal government does something around affordability and access that we would have to implement. There's a whole range of things that we're going to have to do. So Amy, I don't know if you want to add to that. Feel free. We did this together, so.
I think the only thing I would add in laying laying the table is that what we're putting in front of everyone today, we know is very simple and straightforward, and it's meant to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't reflect the complexity of all the detail, because one of the things I've definitely learned and continually remind myself is that everyone's body of knowledge on this topic is very different. And so I think some of us could get into a very down in the weeds conversation about the nuances of this governance, and some of us need to start at a much higher level. And so this is meant to be a big picture conversation to begin with.
So here are the 4 that we came up with, as you'll see on the paper in front of you. One is, yes. Yes, I think so. No.
No, there were copies.
Yeah.
I have a copy of your desk, so it's there.
Oh, underneath everything else?
No, it's right, it should be right in front of you.
Under the pile?
Under.
Oh, there it is. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, that's it.
She got it.
She's got it.
Who's that? This one?
So do you have one? Do you want one? Okay, great. So the first is to develop an arrangement with the utility district. Under that scenario, we could theoretically, first of all, really important to note that would be bilateral. So in other words, we can talk about it all we want. It's entirely possible that the board of directors of the utility district would say, we don't really want to do that. But, we're talking, speaking from the town's perspective here. You could develop an arrangement with the Block Island Utility District. Under that scenario, you would probably assign the existing contracts with Mission, with Ocean, with Surtex. Perhaps over time, that would be the idea. That also would carry with it something that I think is kind of interesting, which is that might offer the opportunity to bring some of the stuff that we're contracting out in-house over time. So, for example, we could theoretically train broadband line people, for example. Not we, the utility district could do that. And presumably it would be set up as a one of the divisions of the utility district. You'd have electricity and you'd have broadband. This from the research I've done is actually quite common it's interesting. The communities that end up building their own fiber networks also tend to be communities that have utility cooperatives for very much the same reasons, right? It's a place that's difficult to serve, that has relatively low population, that is rural, et cetera. There you have a board in place, you have a president and CEO in place. Do you want me to just go through these 4, Amy, or would you like to add in?
One thing I would add before you move on is that this concept as a potential part of the utility district has existed since the utility district was created.
Yes, right.
It was always on the table as
Yes.
a possibility.
Yes, right.
And so it's written into their enabling legislation as something they are able to do. Again, it doesn't mandate that they do it. That's a conversation, but it is possible.
Yeah.
And does the structure elsewhere, is that a fee-based? Is it we pay for X number of their employees? You know?
So the way it's a really good question, and I'll just tell you the way that I envision it, which may be 180 degrees opposite of where we'd end up. But I think it would be self-sustaining, based upon your monthly fee that you're paying in right now to Crocker, but theoretically that could be just like the bill that you get for your electricity. The town wouldn't be hiring anybody. It would be all under the utility district. The utility district may discover, which is owned by the members. But the utility district, as I was saying, they may decide that paying Surtex to come out 15 times a year costs $150,000. For that, we could, that's up to them. So the other possibility is creating a town affiliated governing board, similar to water and sewer. That would have a director, just like a John Brunig or a Dylan Chase. That would have potentially over time staff, maybe immediately, but potentially over time. It did strike me that might require legislation in order to create that authority, because I think both water and sewer were created by enabling legislation. Now, that may have had to do with their the financing tools, but I actually think financing tools are potentially going to be a very important component of this thing going forward. Third is to create a new town department, the broadband department, and have a director and necessary staff, and it would be done as an in-house government function. The fourth, is maybe Mission or Surtex would like to just take the thing over and run it, and you simply contract it out to them, and that's kind of where it. We have all the entire function contracted out. What have I forgotten, Amy?
I think
Nothing? Great.
that covers them in a very high level way.
And it is very high level. What I, with some risk of being presumptuous, we should talk about all of these. Then, in some ways, this is an update for you. If you're okay directionally with where we're going, and you be willing to deputize Marianne, Amy, and I to sort of continue this work, flesh out the ideas, and actually come and say, we think it should be option 3, and here's why, and here were the detriments to 1, 2, and 4, and because I do think I think part of the reason that this is brief is that this is fundamentally a town council decision.
Yep.
And we need to brief you on sort of here are the ideas right now.
So I'm assuming you love
Yes.
that direction. And so I'll be pretty clear and blunt. I love 1, 2, and 4 are out, and 3 is an option.
Right.
I really don't want to create another sewer and water and now call it broadband. There are enough hiccups and issues, and no, water's doing great, sewer's doing great, but that's just structurally not sound to me. And on 4, that's a margin nightmare.
Cost price.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a margin
Yep.
nightmare because they're gonna have to cover all those costs. So to some degree, 1 and 3 are very similar, except 1 has all of the infrastructure So a lot of the infrastructure set
So
up.
one's already there.
One's there, it's running, it's got a mission to it.
Yes.
You know, I mean, God, Jeff would do it, cartwheels. So I love 1, 3 is second alternative, and the other 2, I would have troubles chewing them.
I echo that. I like 1 a lot. That's doable. I mean, just there's a synergy to it that just makes sense.
Great. Any other comment? Are people okay if we go? go ahead, Maureen.
I'm very, very much in favor of your idea. And I worked for the sewer department.
Would people
when it
make
was
sure that
built.
Martha was speaking into the microphone and that was recorded?
I worked for the sewer department when the sewer was built. I worked for the town when the
Right?
water company was purchased. And then when the water company got legislation, it's too complicated to even
Yeah.
begin to.
Yep.
And it still has some flaws. I don't think it's ever been completely worked out. And I think that this is a really great opportunity to go back to something we used to talk about a long time ago, and that was morphing everything together into a utility district. And that's not going to happen on water and sewer. But I think this is very much, if that can be worked out, I'm very much in favor of that.
Molly?
So I agree with 1 being the best choice. But I just want to ask, like, obviously that they've talked about it too, right? I mean, this isn't any surprise for the
No,
utility
it's not a surprise for them.
Okay, just wanted
Because
Yeah.
I mean, I think Amy and I wanted to talk to Jeff and Barbara about what tools they had. And that was, in some ways, this gets a little deeper than we wanted to go. But by being affiliated with all of those national rural cooperatives, there's access to financing and expertise that already exists. That's pretty exciting. And I think it's fair to say that there's a reason that was number 1 on a list of 4.
They also engaged with the broadband committee over the last few years and would come to meetings and sort of participate in where we were and where we were headed. And so they've been keeping tabs on what we're doing.
So are people okay if we sort of continue on, particularly down doing our due diligence on 1? And I would please expect this to be on agendas possibly pretty regularly, because it will accelerate. We have to get going on this, I guess. Is my point.
It needs a home. If you
Yes.
remember, the broadband committee doesn't
Yes.
exist.
Who doesn't need housing on Block Island?
So, it does need a place to live and a bit more oversight and structure, and there are decisions to be made.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add is letter I to your top list, since there's sort of a number of things there, and that would be future applications, alterations. You know, in other words, just that this group is looking forward.
Right, that's a good point.
Versus just operating and managing.
We've already got new things to do.
No, I just, so I
Yeah,
don't
that's a
worry.
really good
It's
point.
not static and today it's also looking forward to figure out how to plan. So, thank you guys.
I guess the only comment I would make back to number 4 would be, I think we all assume we're gonna get some outrageous price tag to try to have them manage it. But having them in the mix and getting an idea and not just casting them out because we believe they're gonna come in high would be a mistake for the town not to ask.
Yeah.
Put a proposal in.
Amy?
I would say, well, that's certainly a concern. I agree the price is going to likely be challenging. I actually have a bigger concern, and that's the loss of self-determination, the loss of local control, which was such an emphasis in what we built and how we went about it, that to wipe your hands and entirely contract it all out feels almost 180 degrees from where we started and what we were trying to do. So that to me is the big detriment to number 4, and then the price on top of it.
Oh, and I left out of my little thing. I was also working for the sewer plant when they did contract out the whole operation of it to a company from Connecticut, and it worked for a while.
Yeah, probably.
But it's not contracted out anymore. Terrific. Thank you, Amy. Really appreciate it. Nicely done, as always. Mike Shea, you're next.
Have you all had a chance to see it? Okay. Do you want me to go through it, or do you want to ask?
No, I just
questions?
to
or-
save time, just your concerns or the big bullets that you think are
Yep.
important. I mean, it's well done. It's
Mhm.
pretty straightforward, so.
Where are your concerns?
Where are my concerns?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, my biggest
My biggest concern. I can't think of my biggest concern. I think everything is fixable, workable. I guess if I'm gonna have to point one out, I'd go to the back of the transfer station.
Yeah.
I think that will be an ongoing problem for decades to come. We're putting a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage,
Yeah.
and we can fix it every year, and it's just gonna be the same thing the following year. I have spoken to Jim Jeremia, let him know, that, we've got to get going on that before it gets even worse. But
Yeah.
it's like bailing out the ocean.
I don't know that anybody knows what the answer really is, right?
Take off the breakwater.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Which is right on Wall Beach.
I know.
Yeah.
8 feet or something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what is that? Take out the breakwater. So what's happening is the breakwater at the harbor is creating action on sand, and the current comes through, it's ripping apart
Another
theory.
No, I don't think it's a theory. It's if you don't know that whole delta behind on the south side of the Coast Guard breakwater, if you think back, it didn't used to be a whole delta. It used to be a lot more exposed breakwater, and then it filled in, and then they started Glacier Channel, which we never did in ours back in 1800s.
Mike,
I don't recall.
Mike, the one thing I would say, which, because you have a transportation station here, and it seems very current, meaning talk to Sean about trash next year and all that. There's been a lot of discussion, and I know there were some meetings with the council or whatever, and Sean, I think there has to be a master plan put in for the transportation, the building. The fact that it's still standing amazes me.
Yes.
The traffic flow, blah, 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 blah. So just as one of the bullets upcoming, I'd love to hear from the DPW. Plan, timing. I mean, I know it's going to be a big expenditure, or I assume it will be. Like, where do we go with this? Because composting has been a big discussion, a number of things, but I just think vision planning, what's happening.
Absolutely.
Which has nothing to do with trash today. We have to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, in my mind, what we're doing now, as far as the trucks going off island, is just crazy. There's got to be a better way.
Maybe trash steam or whatever. I mean, it could be whatever.
Incineration, whatever it might be. There's all sorts of, new modern ways, to dispose of trash, and they all have to be looked into. But yes, that's a good point. I mean, like I say, I just think it's crazy the way we're doing it now.
To me, that's probably the biggest thing for DPW is for this position that's created. For me, it's about looking forward. I think we do a very good job of looking today and maybe looking tomorrow. We just don't really look, far out.
Yes.
In a capital way. And then the only other thing I'd say about it is just tell me when Joe's driving, because I want to get way off the street at that point.
Well, luckily the sweeper goes very slow.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited about Jason. That's good.
Back to concerns though. I'll go with roads. The condition of the roads are just atrocious. We know that there's money coming in the next few years, but it can't come soon enough. There's some spots that are causing accidents, with these bikes and mopeds. They're beyond a point of what we can do as a highway department for repairs. It's literally falling apart.
Yeah.
So That's a concern of mine. The amount of traffic on these roads were never
Yeah.
designed for the size of vehicles and the number of vehicles. I mean, yeah, it's, again, a vision. When this work is done in the next couple of years, we gotta look decades down the road. What's it gonna be? So the roads are a big issue, and I know it's always a hot topic with the dirt roads. Everyone, loves the island character of the dirt roads, and I do too. But the maintenance on them is crazy. It's nonstop. Yeah. Again, these roads were never designed to have this amount of traffic.
Right. Well, if the mopeds would stay off it, that would.
You can just do the design.
That would get
period
traffic.
after that. They just the roads.
Yeah.
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 So where do we stand with the state and the 20 million? When does planning start on that? And
The month of November, correct? Isn't that when all their money comes to be?
So we have to wait for them to get their federal budget approved, which would be, I think they're on October 1st. So they're probably in the process of getting that ready and getting that budget approved. So I expect late
So
fall.
late-
early
late
winter.
fall?
I know I've kind of punted to Mike. He has reached out to the person that has been our contact. And so I know he's had some preliminary discussions.
Terrific.
So right now, we're in sort of a holding pattern.
Have you noticed, the only, the question I had is, have you noticed anything different this year? Like.
Anything different this year?
Yeah, like, does it feel like there are more cars? Does it
Yes.
feel like there are, just not holding you to anything, but I'm just curious about your sense, because you've been here and you've,
Last year, I said, I've never seen so many cars. And this year I said, oh my God, there's even more.
yeah,
And I always gauge it on Corneck Road on a sunny day.
right.
It used to be a 3-day weekend or a holiday where you would have cars on the west side of Corneck Road. Now it's a Tuesday with no holidays. It's just the entire length of it. So, I mean, I'm not saying anything that,
Right.
you don't know.
Yeah.
But it's vehicles and those vehicles,
They're
all have
bigger,
people and
they're-
people create trash and,
Yeah.
cause damage to roads. and-
Have you noticed, of course, you're not doing it, but I walk the dog early in the morning on Crescent Beach. And I'm noticing much more frequently people staking out their beach spot early. It's like there's more people on the beach
Yes.
early in the morning than I ever remember.
What I noticed at Mansion Beach parking lot is they'll come down.
Yes.
6, 7
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning and
Yeah.
park their car there.
Yeah,
And then take the second car back to the house on breakfast.
Correct.
yeah, right.
Correct. They'll
Exactly.
reserve their spot.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
It's the same, I talk probably,
As much as anybody, I spent a lot of my day talking to people who are just visiting. And it seems like this is a pervasive problem all along the coast, on the other islands, that if everybody's saying we don't know what we're going to do. Are you able to talk with other places and see if they've got any kind of plans for? And one respect, I think we're better off than the mainland because they seem like they can just have endless supply of cars. We are at least somewhat limited by the boat, but it does, I don't know how they can give you, I agree with you. I don't know how that can be more every year, but we sure seem to be.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I know you don't. I know maybe collectively, if you
Yeah.
talk to other folks, I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like every time I look at one of these things, and then of course they're all, I don't want to say something I shouldn't say, about shore access over there. At least we're in pretty good shape with shore access.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I just know of other cities and towns that they've got some battles going on.
Yeah.
Susan and I were just on the main line for a couple of days at a beach, and it was like I had this. We literally walked out, and I said, "Now I see why this is such a big issue, because it's so much different.
Granted, some of our accesses need a little work.
Yeah.
But it's an
Right,
access.
exactly,
And it's open to
exactly.
the public.
Yeah.
I have two questions. One is, how did it work this summer with, street sweeping in the morning and, not having cars in the way? Were there cars in the way or did that work out?
There was early in the summer and we've gotten on track and the tickets have made a difference.
So if there are no cars, you should say, thank you, Neil. And if there are cars, you should talk to the chief.
Thank you, John.
Correct. Correct. I'm a little disappointed in the cars that are there because they are mostly business owners. Residents live right there that know that there's no
But they're
parking
getting
there on those
tickets.
particular days. Yeah.
Okay.
And they park there. It's definitely gotten better
That's good.
as the tickets have increased.
Great. And then my other question was, Isaac's Corner. You said that Isaac's Corner is going to be fixed by Surtex. So just questioning the run around the block, which is on September 10th, normally uses that area.
Oh,
Do you see any issue with that? The damage seems to be more towards the cemetery.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be an issue.
Okay.
If we have to go in there and straighten things up a little bit for the road race, I mean, we as the highway department can do that. But it needs to be, there's a lot of little stones in there that need to be removed. It's difficult to mow now.
Right.
Got it.
But it does make sense to hold off until the fall to do it. Otherwise, it's just not going to come out right now.
Right.
And Bain is their contractor, so he will be doing the work.
Great.
Any other questions for Mike? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. Kristen's here. She's on Zoom. Look at you. Haven't seen you on Zoom since COVID. No, we can't hear you yet.
Volume.
Can she hear
Thanks,
us
Mike.
to know?
Kristen, we can't hear you.
Nope.
We cannot hear you still.
Nope.
We had somebody on earlier, right?
Yeah, we had Nick on.
Can you hear me? Does this help?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear Nick. Do you want to try logging in on your phone?
But you can log in video and phone with both of them. That's what you meant.
Yeah, she could either use a Zoom app on her phone or she could dial in on a telephone.
Can she hear us at all?
I think she can hear us. Kristen, you can hear us?
Kristen, can you hear
Yes.
Have you had lots of people in the library? We could ask questions.
They have to be yes or no questions.
Kristen, can you hear us?
Yeah. She can hear us.
She can, yeah. If we can't get it.
Well, do you want
can
me
we
to
reschedule?
jump to the
Yeah,
next
of course.
one? Just try to figure it
Kristen,
out.
do we want to do this at the September 5th meeting?
Nope. Is it possible to do audio on your phone? Sounds like.
Well, as long as you're not speaking to us, I did want to say something before we began, Kristen, if you can hear us. I'm excited for you in terms of what you do next, but I have to say I'm sad because I think because of your work and the team that you have at the library, we have a library that is a vibrant example for any library in the country. Because I think you and others were very early adopters and thought leaders on what a library can be for a community. I'm hopeful that before you leave, we can actually have you here just to say that in person, because I don't think the community can thank you and your team enough for what an extraordinary asset that facility is to our community. So thank you. This is the quietest I've ever heard. I think we'll go with this new system.
I like you so much better.
Goodness.
Do you
All
want
right.
to continue to?
Yes,
to
yes,
September?
yes. Race Week 2025. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah. So I asked this, and Molly, I think you did a nice job articulating at the time, kind of what transpired with Race Week and the parking request and whatever. And I think we can be really quick on this. I think there was some misinformation. We did a vote, be that what it may, because the land trust, I spoke to Barbara today. At the end of the day, the management agreement doesn't allow for parking on the property. So regardless of us voting, we couldn't do it. They did not vote against it for parking there. It just wasn't allowed. So, so now that I kind of got to the bottom of it, I'm satisfied. I do echo going back to your concern, which was how is the town not supporting things that do bring money to the island, especially in June when it's not as busy and, businesses, restaurants, hotels benefit from it. So I would like, we don't have to do it now, but have future brainstorming or whatever with regard to what the town can do to help in that area. Obviously that property can't be used, but we threw out some other things. It sounds like anything in partnership with the land trust can't be used. So we can just knock it off. I kind of got to the bottom of it. So thanks.
Terrific.
Right. I mean, it's an every other year event, so we have time.
Yeah. Anything else? We have an appointment for the Water District and Sewer District. Wait, does she get both? Or you remind me how this works,
Yes.
right? It's both.
She does. She gets both.
I
Wants it or not.
yes, exactly.
And she does realize that.
Yes.
Her letter says this.
But I just sometimes we are in a position of desperately hoping that someone will take these jobs, and then we really have a gem in this case. I think Phoebe is going to be extraordinary. I think she's an incredibly welcome addition at a very critical time for both utilities. And I would proudly make a motion to appoint Phoebe McMillan to the Water District Commission and the Sewer District Commission.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just as discussion, I spent a while at the Murray D talking with her, and she is very excited, and I think it'll be a huge plus.
Yes.
Yeah, I think she's going to be a super addition.
Yeah.
And she already took a tour of the water company, and I think was preparing to take a tour of the sewer company and
Terrific.
fantastic.
Terrific. By the way, now that we're talking water and you just reminded me, I'm not going off agenda, but Millie, one of the things we've talked about, that I've talked about, is I would really like at some point in October or November to talk to Dylan and John about doing open houses, an open house weekend, you know, at one each weekend, so that the community can come in and see them. Like the sewer plant, you got to go see that. If you haven't been down there, it's really amazing. You know, I mean, it's and water, it's immaculate, extraordinarily well run. You know, I mean, it really, I'd love to do something like that. And I can certainly reach out to Dylan and John, but I just want to remember that. Anyway, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor of appointing Phoebe McMillan to water and sewer, please say aye. All those opposed, no. All right, Phoebe, don't blame us. You asked for it. We still have a water and sewer vacancy for a one-year term. We have a Conservation Commission appointment to fill Ned Phillips is resigning or has resigned. And we have one Police Advisory Commission. I believe it's John Spear that's up for that his term is ending. I believe he has expressed interest, Millie, in continuing, which is, I think, very positive. With that, accept a motion to adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. That was a good meeting.